instruments include trumpet, all different kinds of horns, the trombone, the euphonium, and the tuba. And any instrument that creates sound by buzzing the lips, you do like a sound, and it goes into a circular mouthpiece. And so any instrument that's how you make sound, that's a brass instrument. It doesn't matter if it's actually made of brass. There's plenty of brass instruments that are not made of brass. Like early horns, early cornets were made of wood. So is the Australian didgeridoo. Those are brass instruments because we play them making that buzzing sound, but they're not necessarily made of brass. Um, Brass players have a lot of control with their instrument sound because it relies heavily on how they breathe, how they buzz their lips. It's not just their fingers and pressing buttons. A lot of control comes from the player's body itself, which gives them a really cool range of abilities and sounds that they can make. There's various curves and lengths of tubing that help us create pitch, just like string and woodwind instruments. Usually, the larger the instrument, the lower it's going to sound. So, like a tuba is the largest. It has the longest kind of length of tubing in a really big tube, and it creates a really low sound. Whereas the trumpet is a very small instrument. It has a very small tube, creates a pretty high sound. Um, and we have different keys and valves that we press, and that changes the length of the tubing, and that's how we get different pitches and notes out of brass instruments. There's two main kinds of brass instruments, and they're called cylindrical bore versus conical bore. So a cylindrical bore, that includes the trumpet and the trombone, and it basically means that the tubing, if you were to stretch it out and it didn't have any curves, it wouldn't get any bigger from beginning to end until the very, very end when it opens up. So it's the same kind of width all the way through. They tend to have a pretty sharp, a little more piercing sound. They cut through other instruments really easily. Conical bore includes things like the French horn and the tuba and pretty much all of our other brass instruments. If we were to uncurl all of their tubing, you would notice that it might start really, really small, but then by the end it gets pretty big, and that's even before it opens up into that bell. So it gets bigger as it goes, and they tend to have a little bit more of a warm, mellow sound. You'll notice that I put a video down below about just making different kinds of brass instrument sounds, and you can kind of hear that the trumpet and the trombone, which are those cylindrical bore, they're a little sharper, they kind of cut through things a little easier, whereas other instruments like the horn and the tuba, those conical bores, are a little bit mellower, a little bit easier. So we are going to talk in the next couple of days about the trumpet, the French horn, the trombone, and the euphonium and the tuba, which are really, really cool instruments. They have a really interesting history, I think. So I hope you guys enjoy listening to some brass instruments this week.